Think of a body of water like a river, lake, or even an ocean that's filled with plastic debris like this. What would be the best way to pick it up? Well, one way would be to use a drone like this. Plastic was once hailed as a miracle material, lightweight, durable, and versatile.
There's nothing like Saran wrap. It's the crystal clear plastic that lets you see everything you wrap. Just press it into place over any bowl or dish, and it stays.
But for every product that made life easier, a consequence followed. Today, plastic waste is choking the arteries of the planet. In rivers, it flows almost like a second current. In the oceans, it gathers in clusters the size of countries. One study estimates we dump around 11 million tons of plastic into the ocean every year. That's like tipping a garbage truck into the sea every minute. And it's not just bags and bottles, it's also microplastics, invisible to the eye, but embedded in our food chain. From the Citarum River in Indonesia to the Amazon basin, from India's holiest river, the Ganges, where waste sits beside worshippers, to the Mississippi Delta and southern Europe's coastlines, the problem is everywhere. And at the heart of it all floats the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a swirling mass of plastic between Hawaii and California, twice the size of Texas. It's not just pollution, it's a symptom of something deeper. Enter Deltares. Based in the Netherlands, this independent research institution is on the front lines of water research and science. From climate resilience to environmental modeling, they turn data into defense strategies. Their tools are used by governments, corporations, engineers, and planners around the world. And inside their massive hydro hall, theory meets the chaos of nature. This massive facility stretches over 2 football fields long, and it tests almost every imaginable scenario when it comes to water conditions, management, and safety. Dubbed the Hydro Hall, it acts as the ultimate laboratory. Waves, storm surges, underwater tornadoes, even tsunamis. If it happens in nature, chances are those conditions can be recreated here. At Deltares, science is wet, loud, and unpredictable. In their high-tech hall, they don't simulate storms, they summon them. Walls of water slam against reinforced barriers. Sediments are tracked like suspects. Collaborating with institutions across the globe, Deltares provides insight that shape the future of water policy and flood prevention. At the center of the hall lies a monster, the Delta Flume, 300 meters long. It's one of the largest wave simulators of its kind. Now, they're turning that beast toward a new enemy, plastic. Studying how it moves, where it gathers, and how to best catch it. One of the researchers showing us how that works is Tobias van Battenberg.
In this facility, what we did was checking the plastic transport in riverine conditions. So what we do over here, we recreate a river and we injected certain plastic items in order to see what position it is when it is passing this section of the river.
What are some of the interesting things that have come out in terms of researching the vertical position of plastics through various flow?
Normally, people are understanding it that all the plastic items are near the surface. And in certain flow conditions, that's the case. However, below the surface, there's a lot more water. And what we did during this experiment was tracking the items over the entire depth of the river. And what we found was not only at the surface, there is a plastic item, but also below the surface, there are a lot of plastic items. And it depends on the flow conditions where that item would be. And during low flow velocities, for example, so very mild flowing river, a lot of the plastic items are at the surface. But if we increase the flow velocity and we increase the turbulence, we see that more items are not only at the surface, but also below the surface, which means that there is potentially more items that we could see at the surface underneath it.
And how have you sort of integrated artificial intelligence into analyzing some of the sides of this research?
What we did, we injected the plastic items all the way at the beginning of this flume, and they were transported along this way. And at this window, we placed cameras to track those items passing by. And we used AI in order to detect it and to track it. And then we could say, okay, this item is over here at this exact position.
Tobias demonstrated how plastic disperses at specific flow velocities, providing key insights into how microparticles move beneath the surface.
And what you will see is a plastic cup passing by.
Okay.
And that plastic cup is at a certain position over the depth of the water. And for low flow velocities, most of the items will be at the surface. While high flow velocities, it's a wider spread of the items. Right here, everything is constant. The plastic items are the same. And you see that this plastic item is slowly moving through the measurement section. Another item, the exact same item, same method used as insertion, is right now at the surface.
Yeah.
So already the same item, same conditions are at different positions. And these positions are right now quite close to each other. If we have an increase of turbulence or flow velocities, that spread is wider. And by doing this for, let's say, 300 pieces of the same item, we can make a so-called distribution over the water depth. And analyzing that distribution is telling us something about the vertical distribution of the plastics in rivers. Other thing that we can do is increasing the flow velocities. So again, same items, different flow velocities, and we could compare those two things. What is the flow velocity doing for hydraulic conditioning?
If data is the diagnosis, then cleanup is the cure. The Netherlands is doing both. With some of the world's most advanced tools for measuring plastic pollution, the country isn't just mapping the problem, it's scrubbing it clean. Armed with environmental intelligence, a new generation of innovators is hitting the water. Startups are designing aquatic robots, mobile collectors, and real-time tracking systems. One such company is Noria, where design meets function in the war on water waste. Co-founder Arno van der Vaart invited us to his lab to get up close with some of their most promising models. Machines with one job: fish plastic from the water before it makes it out to sea.
So here you see the trapping system. So the plastic is with wind or with the water current pushed into the system and is guided towards the container. And the design of the canal cleaner is the trapping system and the shape outside, that it is very easy to come in, but when it is in, it is almost impossible to go out again.
So it's like a valve system.
Yeah, and that is what we want, of course, because we want to have the plastic in the container, and if the wind is changing, then still it needs to be in the container, because the container will be emptied 3 times a week, and then at that moment everything that is in the last days will be emptied by the container. So the container is of course the second part which is important of this system. This is our other catching system, and this is an active catching system, and this one is called the Circleaner. And what you see over here is inside you have scoops, and the scoops can turn around. So it is passive, it is situated on one location. The trash is pushed by mainly water current for this system, and then the scoops
turns this.
So then the scoops turn the plastic actively out of the water. And for example, in tidal areas where you sometimes have the push, but also sometimes you have the pull, then this system, before the water and the trash is pulled out again, already it's lifted up and it is in the container.
Noria's main piece of hardware is the Circleaner, and this is how it works. The device is installed at the mouth of a pumping station that draws water in. Trash, plastic, debris all get funneled towards the mouth of the pumping station, where the Circleaner awaits. Apart from cleaning, Noria's machines also analyzes huge amounts of data. After debris is collected from the water surface, it's placed on a conveyor belt where a camera, powered by artificial intelligence, scans and categorizes each item. Plastic bottle, foam container, fishing net, the device recognizes them all. This data becomes gold for municipalities. Guess that's where the old saying, "One man's trash is another man's treasure," comes from. It tells them where the trash comes from, what it's made of, and most importantly, how to stop it at the source. The project's brainchild and Noria's other co-founder is Rinze de Vries.
And we say instead of going after the problem, we let the problem come to us. So that's why we first do the research. We do GIS models, we have cameras, we have GPS tracers, and from all those technologies we get insights into what are the locations where it's most suitable to install our systems.
And the camera has an AI tool as well in terms of measuring the pollution source as well and the pollution flow.
Yeah. So the cameras there, we hang them most of the times underneath the bridges, and that it can cover the whole width of the canal. And then it's every 6 seconds it takes a picture, and then those pictures are being analyzed by the AI model, and then we can calculate how much plastic litter every year goes through that canal.
But this is a technology, when it's scaled up, it can be used pretty much everywhere and anywhere in the world.
Yeah, our technology, you can use it everywhere and anywhere in the world. And mainly we want to keep it as simple as possible such that it's also keeping functioning. It's not installed there and after 2 years, there are missing elements or parts and it cannot function anymore. We want to keep it simple.
But you also have to have a strong collaboration with municipalities, water authorities.
Yeah, that's also part of the, we sometimes say it's a wicked problem, since nobody likes plastic in the water, but nobody is the owner of plastic in the water. So all the governments say, we don't like it, but you need to solve it. And if we keep directing towards each other, then it will never be solved. So that's also a little bit the difficulty in our job. We need to find intrinsically motivated governments or private organizations that want to do something about this problem.
After learning how the system works, we headed to a quiet pumping station on the edge of town. Here, one of Noria's units is deployed in the field, doing exactly what it was built to do. This time, we got to see the machine in action.
So here you can see the trash barriers, the floating lines, and they will direct the plastic into the system. Normally when the pumping station is on, it's sucking all the plastic in this direction. Today that's not the case, but you can see the wind also has effect. So if we throw it in the water, then you can see that the plastic is being pushed into the Circleaner. Yeah, so this is the Circleaner. There you see the inland water and there's the outland water, so the seas. And we want to prevent the plastic that's coming from the inland going towards the sea. So here you see a pumping station, it's pumping the water out, and we direct all the plastic into our system, and then the system will rotate the scoops, and they will remove the plastic out of the water, and it will fall into the container inside.
Okay, you started the rotation of the scooper, the carousel scooper.
Yeah, true.
And we can actually see some organic waste that's floating on the surface and a plastic bottle.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll be picked up in the next rotation, and it comes and it gets deposited into this central cavity, right?
Yeah, true. We have to remove this pin, then you can open the lid. I will get this one away. But then here you can see that it falls in the system.
Okay.
There you see it on the scoop.
All right, yeah. And then once that's been deposited, when it's completely full, all you do is pull this sled out.
Yeah.
And then you empty it by hand into disposable plastic bags and dispose of it.
Yeah, true. I will now quickly put it
Yeah,
back.
put it. Because we are at essentially the end point before the sea, this is vital in terms of preventing all the macroplastics and other waste from getting out into the sea. This looks like the last barrier.
Yeah, true. Yeah, quite often we say we remove it at the last station. This is the last station before it goes into the sea. And when it's at the sea, it's also really difficult and expensive to remove it, since you need to have many equipment of tools to remove it out of the sea.
Not every cleanup job can be docked to a canal wall. Some tasks need a little muscle, or in this case, mobility. That's where RanMarine comes in, a company that designs robotic cleaners that roam freely, swallowing waste like some sort of mechanical predator. Think Pac-Man, but instead of chewing on digital dots on a screen, it's chomping on floating trash at sea. They're built for ports, harbors, lagoons, basically anywhere pollution drifts where hands can't reach. Compact, sleek, remote controlled, or autonomous. And behind all that engineering, a team that sees water cleanup not as a one-off fix, but as a system. One of those minds is Bart de Vries, RanMarine's Chief Operating Officer, and he took us on board RanMarine's largest water drone, dubbed the Mega Shark, which can be operated from the deck and remotely.
Yeah, so the device has a computer on board, obviously. The information comes in from various sources. The chief navigational method is GPS. GPS enhanced with RTK, which makes it much more precise. We use a combination of two GPSs actually, so that you can actually also determine the direction of the vessel by the two GPS points. Then the IMU gives you the gravitation and the magnetic field of the Earth. So that is the heading again, and out of those pieces of data, it figures out the most accurate way of the direction and the position. Then the information coming in from the LiDAR tells it what is around it. So as it's going from GPS point to GPS point, so waypoint A to B to C to D, it needs to make adjustments, right, for things that might be in the way, like another vessel or a dock or whatever it may be.
Let's talk about the beast that we're on.
Yes.
The capacity for waste on the Mega Shark is about 10 times that of the Waste Shark. What were some of the engineering hurdles that you had to overcome when you're scaling up?
There's various things. I mean, the basics of course are the same, right? It's a catamaran, there's a basket in between, but you have different batteries, engines, because the power dimensions are of course very different. The other thing is that this basket, there are a couple of variants of it. This variant you hoist with a with a crane from the side, because obviously you can say I'll make the basket 10 times the size, but that'll also be 10 times the amount of trash, which is 10 times the weight. And we're making a variant where actually you insert smaller baskets in this, so that you can lift it by one person, like in case you don't have a crane, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit like that in the sense that for different use cases, you will have to modify this according to what what our customers want to do.
Back on land, it was time to take the controls myself. It may look small, but this drone is making a big splash. Inspired by the whale shark, the Waste Shark is designed to glide across the water and scoop up floating waste. The drone is fully electric, making it both eco-friendly and quiet. Operators can drive it manually or set it up to run pre-programmed routes, cleaning the same area again and again. The Waste Shark isn't just effective, it's remarkably simple to pilot. If you've ever handled a remote-controlled car or piloted a drone, the controls are very similar. With onboard sensors and even LiDAR, it avoids collisions with animals and walls while covering its mission path. And beyond cleaning, it can also gather data, giving cities and scientists a smarter way to keep waterways clear. In a matter of minutes, I was steering it through the lagoon like a veteran. And as I'd find out, that's exactly the point: make cleaning up intuitive and scalable. To better understand RanMarine's full mission and where it's headed, the man behind the company met me by the water. CEO and founder Richard Hardiman has big plans for these little machines.
We started off with a very noble kind of, we want to take plastic out of the ocean or out of the water with these things. But once we were there, we realized that it's not just plastic that's causing issues. It's agricultural runoffs and nitrate into our water that's blooming more algae than ever before. Oil is a massive problem. Incidental oil spills with our kind of things, imports, those things need to be cleaned up. So we basically ended up with a platform that is robotic, that can be equipped with various different types of accessories that gives people access to cleaning up that pollution, whatever that pollution may be. So it was a very noble idea to start with. I think, save the planet, clean up the waste. But as we saw greater adoption by different markets, we realized that actually as a platform, this thing has a really big legs for us commercially.
Different markets means a lot more of these drones, hundreds, if not thousands. And I know that's some of the things that you're thinking about. Talk to me about some of the challenges, manufacturing, finance, logistics. These are some things that you need to...
All of those are massive challenges, and especially with a new innovative product. So until these things become ubiquitous and people are just technically buying them off the shelf, you have to explain, walk the customer through it, why it's better, what it does, train them on how to do it. So you start off with a very thin edge of early adopters, as most products would do. But as we get bigger, as we start sort of realizing that, a lot of our business is inbound. People are starting to realize that these things are very useful. So we are lucky in the respect that it comes to us rather than us having to go out there. There are people looking for these tools, but yeah, you've got to sustain yourself financially while you go through that period. R&D, these things never existed in the world before we started this. In 2016, we were the only company. Now we're one of 5, which is great, shows a market space. But for us to get there over those 6 years, to become commercially viable, that took a lot of cost. And now our problem is thankfully scale.
You have multiple SKUs. I'm wondering how you sort of prioritize R&D, which you were just mentioning.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing because you want to. R&D is fun, and we see lots of different uses and lots of different markets and how we can access them. If we do a bit of R&D here, if we do a bit of R&D there. I'm particularly guilty as a kind of an entrepreneur wanting to do everything and magically create it. Fortunately, we've got a lot of clever people working for us, so let's just make it step by step. And I think that's benefited us over the last couple of years, where we're more focused on what we're doing, maybe less R&D on the bigger events, but on the smaller events to be able to accessorize things into our platform. So from that point of view, yeah, it's fun to do R&D, but when you need to become a business and commercialize, you need to kind of focus on those more sort of revenue-generating kind of products.
This is the Netherlands, a country that gave the world Rembrandt and Van Gogh. So perhaps it's no surprise that the fight for clean water is taking on a more artistic shape. Enter Nova Innova, a startup using floating orbs, almost like sculptures to track water quality, showing the health and pollution levels of water in real time. They're colorful, mesmerizing, and packed with sensors that monitor pH, temperature, and much more. Call it scientific poetry. And leading the charge is Ermi van Ers, Nova's founder, but she prefers a different title, biodesigner.
So it actually started by that I got to know about this technology, the microbial fuel cell technology, which you can harvest electricity from microbes. And without harming the ecosystem, it's actually just tapping into this natural system. And I was like, okay, what do I want to do with it? How can I bring this to life? And I thought I wanted to actually make something for the water, to give her a voice. So we actually can hear how she's doing. We can learn how to take care for her.
What are some of the parameters that you measure when you give the water a voice?
We measure kind of the basics. A water board in the Netherlands measures as well, which is pH, temperature, oxygen, EC. That is kind of the basic spectrum. And now with Deltares, we are collaborating to actually see if we can extend these sensors and if we can include machine learning, so we maybe can even predict something.
And your collaboration with Deltares, how has that sort of been important in terms of the development of the product?
It really gives us, Nova Innova is like a biodesign studio, so we have a lot of knowledge on the technology and on the design, but Deltares, I mean, it's huge in the knowledge of water and measuring the quality of water, and so for us it's an amazing collaboration in which we can extend actually our skills. And I always say we need to work together with different species in order to reach innovation.
From industrial labs to floating art installations, the Dutch are waging a multi-dimensional battle against plastic pollution. It's science and sensors, drones and data, boats that vacuum the sea, and orbs that read it like a mood ring. They want to tackle the problem head on, where pollution starts, and to ensure it doesn't make it out to the oceans. The methods are different, but the goal is the same: cleaner water, better systems, and a future where tech isn't just part of the problem, but at the heart of the solution. For a nation that prides itself on expertise in water management, keeping rivers, canals, and lakes clean is certainly a top priority. While many of the world's water challenges arise from the unpredictability of nature, polluted waterways are a completely different story. Their cause and solution rests entirely in our hands. Well, that's it for this edition of NexTech. I'm Alican Ayanlar, and we'll see you next time.